powerful.
You know, the guy that got me the most was the squid. Remember the big squid guy in Sunshine? Where you have to yank the arm up and whack him on the head? That one, to me, was the one that I just went...
Well, you still ride? Do you still get on the not
Well,
ride?
I do parades once in a while, you know. They have all the CHiPs motorcycles at a place called Hollywood Motors. And so you can go and rent those. They give them to me for free, and then they usually don't run good. The clutch doesn't work right and so on. Now I'm going through a stop sign trying to hold the bike that's in place, and I'm rolling through it. And had to wear a helmet. The only helmet I had was that ugly old dorky CHiPs helmet. And my wife said, "You are really dorky, dude, wearing that helmet."
Now you read a lot of things online, so I don't know if this is a rabbit hole of rumors, but is it true you're a reserve police officer? Is that right? Are you? And you sometimes I hear ride around on patrol, and then people recognize you from the show. And I went on a bit of a rabbit hole with that you still are an officer on a motorcycle from time to time.
No, I became a Muncie PD officer 14 years ago for 3 years. I did that there because I always wanted to be a cop. From the age of 4 to the age of 17. My dad was stuck on the needle. My mother fired him, and she started dating a New York cop. I grew up in Spanish Harlem, New York City. And I loved the man. First man I ever loved as a kid was a cop. So I wanted to be one.
When I was trying to get out the door, I put my hand against the wall and I made sure it slid down. You know, so yeah, we all borrow from each other, right? Let me just put it this way.
I've forgotten how beautiful the falls are, and I talked to the driver of the shuttle who does tours, and I said, "Do you get used to it?" He said, "Yeah, you know, I did, but COVID was for 2.5 years. I didn't do it. So the first few times I was doing it, I forgot the words that I'd always use, and I was looking at the falls and knew, you know." So I've got a book coming out in the fall. Why are we laughing?
And this key is unique. Just like this man is unique, this key is unique. No one else will ever have this key. It's made just for you, and I've been told you're gonna sign it.
Yes.
And then we're gonna do something special with this.
Give me 10. 10. Give me 11. Give me 11. 11. Give me 12. Give me 12. Anybody else back there? 12,000. Go. 12. And listen, it's a contribution to a charity. And I don't know how it works in Canada, but in the States, the charitable contribution is deducted. This is an official. Well, I mean, seriously. So, I got 12. 13! What, 35? 13.5. 14. 15. You gotta go 16. Hey, deductible. I don't know how it works in Canada, but if this were the States, after that comes off. 16. Go to 16. 16. 16. 16 once. 17. 16.5. 16.5. 16.5. 16. Over there. 16.5. You raise your arm. That's how I bought a horse once. I raised my arm to spread it. 16.5. Gone. 16.5 now. Come on now.
Being so, associated with this, home improvement world, which has, been taken off with, HGTV, and everyone's renovating and flipping houses now. Do you find is it awkward if you guys have to go to a hardware store for any reason? Do people like, is that?
Well, I have to learn where stuff is because people come up to me and go, "Hey, where's the lumber?" I look like I should be working there. They don't necessarily realize it, but.
Do people ask you advice too? They're like, "Hey, Richard, I'm building a deck. What do you think we should do here? What kind of board spacing we want to?"
Yeah, well, if you're doing a deck, they've got some great pressurized wood out there now that'll just stand up to a lot of stuff, and you don't have to do much maintenance.
eBay wood is another wood that doesn't ever get destroyed. It's a very hard wood, so eBay wood is good too.
There you go. I feel like we could just do home improvement tips for the rest of this panel. What else you got? What about bathroom renovation?
Does anybody have a project going on right now?
what advice I can give you. Oh my God! I mean, it's, you know, the thing about advice is that advice is good, but it's whether you follow it. It's really the question. You know, if the advice is learn your lines and be on time, would you do that? You know, is it to read all the books that have been written about acting? But what would you learn from that if you don't arrive on time? You see what I'm saying? So it's really up to you. Your ability as an actor depends on how versatile you are. Versatile. Right? So, can you move from Deadpool to, say, Stratford, Ontario?
The character I play, his name is Slasher.
Yeah. You see now where you're going off somewhere else. Yeah. So we're talking about one thing, and you're doing publicity for yourself. So obviously, I might as well be talking out of my backside because there's really not much point. So do you see what I'm saying? So it's whether you are an actor, or a movie star, or a television star, or a performer. Now, if you're an actor, you can do it all. But
Are you like the guy if you go to the party, like a house party, and people are like, come on, Russ, come on, give me like a little.
Yeah, it's funny because I used to do it at parties to, you know, just because I had social anxiety, and I was like, if I could be someone else, that I wouldn't be as nervous. But now people are like, all right, dude, we get it, just stop. Like, you know, so recently I've been doing a lot of my Donald Trump, just because during the pandemic I was watching a lot of him on news conferences, and he was always on there, and I was just always on my couch, and I sort of started to just emulate his voice. And, oh my God, have I done like Donald Trump now? Oh my God, this is very bizarre. It's the strangest thing that's it's like osmosis, and now I sound like Donald Trump. It's very weird, but I'll tell you what, it's a strange thing, but you have this great confidence now. And I'm just like, whoa, that was a weird thing to just happen. So.
How do you dive? Because I've seen the videos where you're going from like voice to voice to voice, and you go from like, you know, John C. Reilly to Christopher Walken. Like, how do you transition? Like, do you have like a spot in your mind that you go to, or a word? Like, how do you jump into it so easily?
Some people have like a word like Pacino, like, you know, Nolan North. Yeah, you guys know Nolan, Uncharted series and everything. He whenever he does Pacino, he has to go, oh, and then he's there. He's dialed in. It's just like a you know, physical. But for me, I literally have to see. It sounds really woo, but I have to see the world through that person's eyes. I have to like kind of pretend like for a moment I'm that person. It sounds weird, but like if I don't do that, it won't be as complete of an impression. I think so.
Do you do a Goldblum? I can't remember.
Jeff Goldblum. Lovely. Dinosaurs. Yes, everywhere. Raptors, small hands.
Man, this is great. I love it.
What was it like being with the late, great Robin Williams and Gilbert Gottfried?
Thank you for mentioning their names.
You're welcome.
Thank you for asking about them. I feel very lucky to have worked with both of them. I've never laughed so hard as when I was with Robin and with Gilbert. And I just feel like we're all lucky that we had them for so long in this world, that we all got to live in a world with two super talents like that, and that they were part of the same movie and a part of Disney history together. So I miss them both a lot. I've been missing Gilbert especially recently. I lived close to Gilbert in New York, and we would run into each other from time to time just by accident. We also stayed in regular contact, you know, on texts and stuff. And I walked by his street the other day, and I just was thinking about him very fondly. So thank you for bringing him up, and thank you for bringing up Rob.
You're very welcome.
Do you Now, not to set the bar high, but I believe it was Erik Estrada who took an entire motorcycle from the set of CHiPs. So when the day
We only took ours in increments. Like I took a carburetor.
Okay.
No, Erik carried it on his back, right?
Yeah.
It's funny shit.
He's very strong.
Yeah. Did anyone take the bikes? Anyone take the...
Listen.
You stole everything.
So the show's about to end, and we all start getting calls in September from my people going, Fox wants to know what you want to take from the show. And I said, it's not what I want to take, it's what I'm taking. I'm taking the bike that I rode for 7 years on the show. About 10 minutes
I was
later.
auditioning for. No one did. They didn't say who they were. And then, you know, I did the first audition. Then the guy rang me up, the drum tech, said, "Can you come down tomorrow?" And I was like, "This is in London." And I said, "No, I can't because I haven't got any money." So, but he said, "Don't worry about that. Get yourself in a taxi and just come down." So I thought, "Oh, well, that's pretty good." So I get there and he meets me, and I've told this story a lot, but anyway, he meets me in the sort of the lobby of this big rehearsal room, and he takes me down the corridors to this other place, and there's all these flight cases with AC/DC on them. So I sort of tapped him on the shoulder and I went, "You fucking kidding, right?" And he goes, "No." I'm like, "Oh, Jesus Christ."
Throughout your career from Risky Business, of course, Revenge of the Nerds, and then we've got fans that have found you on Supernatural. What? They're back there. That's fun. Yeah, right over there. Yeah. Having a career like that spans so long, what are some of your takeaways when you see the love that you've gotten throughout these generations?
Well, I mean, it's a couple of answers there. One is the sort of miracle of good luck that I was cast in Risky Business, because Risky Business basically was I'd worked in the theater for years before that, but Risky Business was the first thing I did outside of the theater, and it was not a huge blockbuster hit, but a lot of directors and writers saw it and admired it. And so with Revenge of the Nerds, I got cast in Revenge of the Nerds because Jeff Canoe, who directed it, loved Risky Business. And then I got cast in Better Off Dead because Savage Steve Holland loved both Risky Business and Nerds. So, and then, Moonlighting. When Moonlighting came along a couple of years later, Glenn Caron was a huge fan of Risky Business. So all of this stuff happens because of one or two movies. By the middle of the 1980s, the template for my career up till now was set. Really by Risky Business, Revenge of the Nerds, Better Off Dead, Moonlighting. By the time I was in the 90s, somebody would cast me because of one of those things. There have been a few exceptions, but
I just have one question. What did you think of the other actors you worked with?
Oh, they sucked. Just kidding. I'm sorry I jumped in first. I'll let you know this. My God, I worked with the level of talent that I was blessed to work with, Nick included, on these three films is just through the roof, man. I mean, first of all, Jamie Lee Curtis is such a badass. He is so incredibly talented. Every single one, look at the people, look at their filmographies, but more important than the filmographies, look at what's on the screen. And when you work with, and Nick as a director could probably even speak to this better than I can, when you're working with really, really talented people, you're in a safe, and you have a director that creates a safe space for you. Because acting is a very precarious life. You really have to trust the people you work with, especially your director. And when you have a director like David Gordon Green who creates a safe space for people to explore their emotions, explore their physicality, and then you work with really, really creatively gifted people who put a lot of work into getting good at what they do, man, this is what we strive for in this profession. It's a great question. Nick?
Well, you know, when I only worked as an actor really that one time. I went on to become a writer and director, and of course I did these little cameos with this one. But you know, the bravest people I think on the set, from my standpoint, are the actors, because they really are putting their asses and their faces and their bodies on the line every time they go out there. So there's something kind of magical about their work. I couldn't do, you know, if you asked me to stand in front of a camera and do some lines, which I do, by the way, in the new one. You'll actually see this mug in the new one. And I have a line. So that's fun for doing it. But I just am amazed how seemingly effortlessly these people can do that work. Because that's tough. Because I'm kind of shy when it comes right down to being in front of the camera. But
your goal is to make a strip of film that's good, that people like, and it's not necessarily about one person. It takes a whole company. And in my case, I did Halloween 4, but so did George Willard. I did half that movie. He came and did the other half. And when I did the Friday the 13th, I did the majority of everything in The Mask. And Dick Whean, who was the actual, guy who was playing Jason, or was supposed to be Jason, he was an impersonator. He was the actor. I was a stunt double. And when people give me credit for Chainsaw, I was in Chainsaw 2 for about 3 seconds, because there was a scene where they were going across the bridge. Leatherface comes up from the back of a pickup truck, reaches over and starts cutting this convertible on a Mercedes, and they fly back through he's going backwards and the Mercedes going forward. He's cutting this thing as they're going across the bridge, and they wanted one last shot that would be everything going off in the distance. So it was a low camera on the street, and the cars would start, take off, and just go like to infinity. And Bob Elmore, who was the stunt man, who did all the work on the movie with the chainsaw action as Leatherface, had been working all day. His arm was sore. I walked in because I was going to double somebody else, and I just got to the set. I said hello to the guys, and the stunt coordinator says, "Hey, Tom, would you jump up here and do this last little teeny cut? Put on this Leatherface stuff, and just do this one shot." So I did that, and it lasted about that long, and I talked to somebody about it, and they says, "Wow, then you're Leatherface." "No, I'm not Leatherface. I had about a half a second." "Well, that counts." So therefore, people say I've done all three.
Yeah, no, you have done all three.
Okay.
That's what it is.
If it counts to you, well, I never counted it, but if it counts to you,
I think it counts to everyone who's in here as well, you know. So,
it's an amazing position to be playing Boba Fett. When I first got the role, I didn't know who Boba Fett was. I thought he was a Jedi. So, but now, how deep they've gone with him. I mean, there's so many different layers to the character Boba Fett. Now, we never knew he had a father, and now he came from a father called Jango Fett. That father just happened to be a clone template for, hundreds of thousands of clones. But then now, technically, kind of, within like the Bad Batch and all these other, like Omega, there's these storylines that are tied to Boba Fett that we really never knew. He had all these connections inside the Star Wars world, and so tightly, So being able to bring all those characters to life, there's many possibilities, I guess I should say. When they asked me, they said, "Oh, we're gonna put you in the book of Boba Fett." I'm like, "Sweet, what do you need me on set?" They're like, no, we got what we need. We're just using the old footage, but we're gonna pay you. I'm like, "Oh, sweet!"
I played a character who was, on paper, the villain. Like, I was supposed to die in 7 episodes because I was like the most villainous. The show, for those of you that haven't seen it, it's about a bunch of teenagers who find out that their parents are like villains and super villains, and they're killing teenagers, which is bad. That's that. So I was the biggest villain of all the parents, and I was supposed to be done away with. But I thought I was the biggest hero of the cast. And I used to love to do interviews with the press, and I would be like, Victor's the biggest hero. And I'd be like, you're killing a teenager every year. I'm like, well, let's talk about that. So I'm playing a character that devotes his life to saving the world. I'm a scientist. I'm trying to find a new way to make energy, fusion power. And I say, we've got to stop lighting things on fire for power, like cavemen. We're killing ourselves. And I spend my whole life, and I failed in middle age. And then I meet this alien dude who says, oh, I'll give you fusion. That's easy. You just got to keep me alive long enough so I can get back to my ship, and I'll give you all that data. Unfortunately, what I eat is teenagers. So you got to get one a year, or I'm going to die and you'll never get your information. And what do you say? And I asked a journalist, so what would you do? Or someone gave you that choice. Would you let the human race die so that you could go to your grave with a clear conscience? And they paused, just like you guys pausing. And so Victor is saying, you may call me a villain. That's okay. You can spit on my grave, but I'm going to save you. And I think that's the biggest hero. And they're like, I never thought of it that way. Well, wait a minute. You were beating your son in the second episode. I'm like, well, let's talk about that.
Do you have a Matt Damon moment with Avatar?
Oh, what?
Well, you didn't know the Avatar story of Matt Damon? They offered Matt Damon the lead role in Avatar when it first came out. He said no. They offered him the lead role plus 10% of the box office.
So what's weird is when you asked me that, I didn't pass on it, but I auditioned for Avatar. Yeah. Back, obviously, in the day, they didn't say what it was. Everyone found out after, but we knew who was directing and the general concept, and they wanted us to come up with our own language. And so I had no idea what I auditioned for at the time. So that's weird that popped into my head. But I haven't passed on anything that I've regretted, thankfully, I guess. Definitely auditioned for things that I've seen after the fact and really wish I'd gotten it. Yeah.
I don't know. I think you should be the first because you spent more time acting with a doll than I have.
Yeah. You can't really prepare as much as you think you can sometimes for a scene, and you can, even if you do, you don't really know the energy that the other character is going to bring in that moment. So I think you do have to kind of just live in that moment and play off of that. As far as working with Chucky, I mean, I've done it for so long, so I can kind of predict where it's going to go. But, you know, I've said many times that it helps me tremendously that in most cases it's Brad's voice on set, because he does it all first, for the most part. And it's a lot easier to act to Brad saying he's going to kill you than a script supervisor just, you know, reading off the
Who
lines.
sounds like this. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, so having Brad's voice there certainly is the right energy for that.
When our first show, our first Ren Stimpy show, the first half hour we produced, we came up like a minute short of footage, which is like a real stupid error, right? So we really did this. So we had to fill it in, and we knew we wanted to do fake TV commercials. So I wanted some ridiculous TV commercial. I said, John, what should we do? He said, do law. So that's all he said. So I had videotapes of many 50s, 60s, and 70s serial killer commercials and commercials. So everything in log I stole from